August SAT has just concluded, and I have asked over 100 students who just took the exam how they felt about it. In this video, I'll go over the consensus for each section, some common concerns, some common questions, as well as what you can expect curve-wise for each of the sections. So let's get right into it by starting off with the math section. So data statistic questions are more apparent on the SAT calculator section and the SAT math section in general. But this comes to a surprise because what students don't realize is that there are 17 on average problem solving and data analysis questions on the SAT math section. So, it's not as heavily tested as hard of algebra, but it is a pretty big topic. And College Board has, made a push to make more data statistic questions on the SAT, because before it was more ignored. You'd only see like 1 or 2 questions about it, but now, you see on average 17. So you can just see that there's a trend that these data inference questions are becoming more and more prevalent. And solving these questions are pretty easy. So if you're a student who struggle with it, just remember this. Understand mean, median, and mode. Okay, median never changes with outliers because it's the middle value. Mean is affected by outliers. So if you remove the smallest value, right, it's a question you get a lot. What changes is the mean and the range, 9 times out of 10. Understanding how a random sample works and how random studies are supposed to look like. If you look at this question right here, it says that the study was taken in a local restaurant. And it's trying to represent the entire population of like the town. So you can't just go to a restaurant, only expect the people in the restaurant to represent the entire population, right? You gotta make sure everyone that you're trying to represent has an equal chance to be selected in the study. And understanding that makes things 10 times easier when it comes to problem solving and data analysis questions. There's also lots of linear equation problems that students said that they had not trouble with, but they just saw a lot of linear equation word problems. And that's, again, not a surprise because hard algebra is 40% of the SAT math section. It is the most heavily tested topic, and linear equations, linear word problems makes up for all of that. But the good thing is that there are a lot of common methods that you can use to solve these linear equation problems, whether it be wording problems or like just general, numbers. You just gotta plug in a value or see where the two equations intersect. It's a pretty simple thing to do. Like I said, the methods are pretty common. There's not many ways to solve a linear equation problem. If you know point slope form, if you know y equals mx plus b form, that's like half the battle right there. Timing was not too big of an issue. A lot of students said that they were able to finish with at least 5 minutes left. I know some students were even able to finish with 10 minutes left, which goes to show that these students probably were the ones binging my videos, because if you guys don't know, I always say that if you're the student who's gonna get 800 on the SAT math section, you're finishing the non-calc section within the first 10 minutes of like sitting down. And that's the speed you should be operating at if you know your SAT math patterns to a T. Now, with that being said, a lot of students overall felt that the math section was easier, and some felt that they did exceptionally well compared to the practice math exams they took, which means that it is potentially true that this SAT will have a harder curve for the math section, because if the exam itself is easy, that means a lot of students are getting good raw scores on the math section. So they're getting like 20 out of 20 for non-calc and like 36 out of 38 for calc. And what this means is that a question wrong can be minus 30 points, especially if you're in the upper 700 range. Like a 780 to a 740 might just be a matter of getting 1 or 2 questions more wrong, which is kind of crazy. A lot of students are like, whoa, 1 question wrong, minus 30. That's like ridiculous, but that happens a lot. In fact, I think 2 years ago, the June SAT was one of the hardest curved exams ever because so many students got their raw score correct, and those like the top students, but the average student was getting destroyed because the curve was just so harsh that he wasn't able to get a good score even if they got like a generally not bad raw score. Now moving on to the reading section. So the reading section had some science passage difficulty. A lot of students were complaining about that, and something I've noticed for the SAT is that they are making a push to include more non-fictional information on the exam, which is why you've been seeing the dual science passage more prevalent on 2023 SATs, because before it would be you get 2 like history passages, but now the 2 science passage like system is like just there, right? And even for your specific SAT, whether taking digital or not digital, if you did not see a dual science passage, you'll probably see it in like the next SAT if you decide to take it. But the good thing about these science passages is that they are the easiest passage to get everything right on. These questions can be easily answered because the information that will tell you, hey, this is the answer, is directly in the text. It's like the math section. Like there's no, oh, is this better said or this better said? It's pretty clear, straightforward. You can literally find the sentence or two in the text that says, hey, this is the answer. Another problem that a lot of students had was that there's lots of confusion with some of the questions wording. A lot of students were like, oh, what exactly is this question saying? And that's something that I feel like a lot of students do struggle with. It's when it comes to the wording for reading comprehension questions, especially when a question is like, what is the best answers? And students are like, oh my God, is it this one or is it this one? And then they just keep struggling with like that last 50-50 chance. but that's something that you'll see across all SATs. So if you're a student who also ran into these problems, this is a common problem you see across all SATs. So I see it all the time. Students always complain about that. Timing was a challenge for a lot of August SAT students. They said that timing was kind of hard. They ran out of time. In fact, 70 out of the 100 students were like, we ran out of time. So that's something that's like, yeah, reading comprehension is kicking butt. But the best way to do that, guys, is just like I said, read more. You got to read more and practice reading faster while comprehending. You don't have to read word for word every single thing in that reading passage, but at least have like a good skim. All right, don't just skim, but like have a good skim where you're still comprehending enough information. And the expected curve is to be standard. This reading SAT wasn't like exceptionally hard, right? This reading SAT was something that you see a lot of. This is like a common reading SAT that, same complaints about students. Yes, it's more science passages. This potentially could be easier, but 9 times out of 10, the reading SAT will have the standard curve that you see across all SATs. So what this means is that if your raw score is really good on the reading SAT, then you probably got like a 770. So you should be really happy. But with this being said, what are your next steps that you can, start today to make sure you get the best score on your next SAT? Well, if you took SAT only once or twice, you can take it again, okay? The max time is 3. Don't take it more than 3 times. Usually your score, it doesn't change much after that. In fact, it goes down. But I highly recommend taking the SAT twice. If you only took it once, which for a lot of students, August SAT is usually like the first SAT, take the October one. You get super score, and you can send the super score to colleges. It will make your score look better, make you look like a better candidate. It's worth it. Highly recommend it. I did it myself and helped me get a bunch of scholarships. And if you are taking the October SAT, make sure you perfect your study routine. I made this SAT study routine video right here that I want you to look at. So, you make sure you have the best study routine possible. So when the October SAT comes around, you get an even better score than your August SAT on both sections. So you just have the best score you possibly can. Thank you all for watching. Peace.